Okay, hello everyone. Today's lecture is about how there are infinite angles of perception to every moment. There are infinite angles to every moment. And so, as a human being, I have the human microphone in my hand. That means that there is a certain outlet. That means it's very funny. For example, you go and check YouTube demographics, right? And it tells you the age, uh, gender, what part, geography, location, and all of that. So now imagine, by the nature of being a human being, a human design, we speak for human ears, at least vocally, linguistically and symbolically. But we're also an energetic presence. That means our speech arises from a part of our being. And so, as the heavens spin around themselves, the earth is born. In certain religious contexts, they see the idea of a born again person, right? And so I find that to be very fascinating because every day we wake up, our consciousness is kind of born again, to start from the unconscious and to journey into the conscious and to return to the unconscious. That means we have got it all wrong. Life is not about consciousness. Life is about where consciousness is. And where consciousness is the massive unconscious. So what it means is that there is way more unknown than known on this planet for the conscious human experience, and the human being's outlet is limited to the human framework. It's as if there was this wonderful program that at some point, this genetical, let's say chemical program, okay? So we have physics, and then we have chemistry, and then we have biology, and then we have neurology, and then psychology, like the staircases like that. There are infinite angles of perception to every moment, just like there are so many ways to look at a painting, just like there's so many ways to look at a person, There's so many ways to read a book, which is another way of saying your eyes imbue nature. Your eyes bring to life where there was no life. That is the power of human conscious activity. That means lesser beings have less of a jurisdiction. And what does that mean? This means that in the class system of human psychology, something very fascinating has occurred. Duality has become the early code for civilization. And what that means is some people believe it was like Zoroastrianism, where duality in psychology was kind of introduced. That means imagine human beings can speak and talk, but they cannot understand yet. And so understanding was its own evolutionary advancement. So in the scheme of evolution, or I should say it differently, in the pathways that consciousness lived through, in all the ways, that means sometimes I wonder, is there like one soul, one great soul that's like, running the place? Or is it in some sense, my opinion is it's one great soul, one great force, one origin that in some sense could not end. We are the endless origin. That is what human consciousness is. It is not an entrance into non-existence, because non-existence cannot be seen. What are you even looking at? Do you know? So the non-existent is not something to fear of. We fear what's going to happen to us, and what is the value of our existence. Is it in the expression of the Jung, like archetypes? Do you know? That means, what is the major force that directs the human mind? And the answer is immediately where attention goes. We're living in a civilization where your attention is, you as an energy outlet, as an energetic being, like your energy goes there. So when I say there are infinite angles, untapped angles, and just pretty much there's so many different ways to look at the same moment. Everything I've ever done in my life, I've had a feeling, yo, there could be someone on the planet doing the same thing in a way more advanced way. So that's not eerie, but that hopeful, eerie feeling that there is advanced beings among us. Do you know there is more advanced levels to how the human attention can contain what it calls reality? Alone, I think I gave a talk called Alone the Soul Howls at a Moon Only It Can See. What does this mean? This means that the life force, if not directed to the greatest outcome, has failed, even if the simulation is not is even if it's a simulation. That means at some point, imagine a human being about to die, and the human being is like, okay, what was this life? Imagine at the end of life, there's a questionnaire, there's like a review. Write your survey, write your feedback. And so you could write your feedback on what life was actually. You would see that vision guides the soul, for where else does energy go? The thing about human consciousness developing to a position where it can categorize reality, it can keep these categories separate. Like there has been an evolutionary update, and think of it this way, just like we say there was a Darwinian physical evolution going on. I'm that human being who's saying the moment the human being had memory, the moment the human being became conscious, it's as if the birth of consciousness had led to the birth of two levels to reality simultaneously occurring. Think of it this way: you were born in two worlds, but you see them as one. Why? Just like how you have two different eyes, but you see one view. This is what I learned, honestly. Like, this is on a tangent, but what religion taught me was that there is a greater power in attendance with manifestation. There is something which is strange, whether it's the life of people, the life people imbue in objects, or in some sense the life that the planet expresses through us. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, we have no choice but as a psychological, biological, three-dimensional object moving in the space-time continuum, moving in some landscape, elemental video game, right? And so simultaneously we ask ourselves, what is the value of physical existence? And you know what's bizarre? The idea of meaning was never physical. So it's as if our lives have a non-physical meaning to our mind, in the sense of the psychological, psycholinguistic simulation of the side subjective narrative to existence. There's a force within the human being, and this force is yearning for something. And when I was younger, I ignored it. But the more chaos you witness, the more you crave order. The more you see, like, yo, man, centuries are going by with inefficiency and effed up bullshit. Human beings fighting over subjective, factors and destroying each other. Where does life take us when we have noticed that the container of the fullness of the totality of existence is a space? As if the person thought the space between the words in a sentence didn't matter. No way, man. The space is what's allowing the words to be here. You see, there was a time where, right now, I in some sense walk the path of a Muslim person. You know, just putting that out there. But what I speak about in these talks is not the focus on metaphysics, because that requires authority. You know, and when I realized what Mr. Within is, that idea, it's the idea of man. It's the idea of like, yo, what if we for a second pause the storylines, the stories, and we just look at what's going on here? And it's just biological, existential creatures waiting. That means, I would say, they don't put this in the statistics, but a vast amount of time in life, a vast percentage of life goes to waiting for it. It's weird, because at the same time we're being it. It's kind of like how that yogi said, life has no purpose, life is the purpose. What does that mean? That means this moment is where everything is happening. Isn't it remarkable? You're in attendance, you know. All the teachers in the educational system in my youth made me feel I was late to class. Little did I know the walls of the classroom were not the walls of a building. They were the edges of the visible, conscious, waking universe. Our eyes have opened, and that means the grand event, the grand happening. That means, imagine the most important event you can attend, and you suddenly realize it's conscious. The conscious, how would I say it? It's like the conscious caliber. How would I say it? It's like the ability you have in the human position is so vast and mighty, but the human beings are conditioned to think that they need extreme, instant, quick responses to every situation. And what kind of a fallacy is this that has been fed to the youth? That you gotta be fast to be good? That's bullshit. You gotta be conscious of what's in the space. You know, that's what the yogis were fascinated by. The idea of the soul had an inner way you reach that idea, and there's an outer way. The outer way is like when somebody, let's say back in the day, was dying and they took their last breath and they were like, yo, something left this body. Like, yo, this guy suddenly stopped breathing, as if the air in the balloon left. You know? That's the external view, right? And the internal view of reaching to the idea of the soul is, it starts off from the simple question. And this is a question, this is the golden question of mysticism, really. Because when I was younger, I thought mysticism was superior to the simplicity of religion. But the simplicity of religion is the complex conclusions of mysticism. So what it means is that there's a role for the human existence, right? We can't like put a seed in the soul and be like, where's my apples? Like, somebody, like, what is this? Why isn't this tree happening? You can't plant an instant tree, but you can honor the seed. And what does that mean? That means a single, authentic, simple effort towards the most advanced vision. Do you see, the word advancement has a different feeling to it than, in some sense, the word greatness. The idea that there are infinite angles of perception to the moment means that whoever you are alive right now, whatever caliber, whatever mountain peak of knowledge and intelligence you have aligned yourself to, you have reached, the heavens whisper a secret hymn that only the wise can see. Everything on planet Earth is a game of the accuracy of subjective value, which is another way of saying, what does the world behind our eyes do with the world in front of it? It's as if imagine there's a brain in the void and suddenly you're like, yo, feed this brain information, right? And existence comes about. Right? And so in some sense, it's like how can I tell you? It's like what you consume you are. I'm not saying cosmic celestial activity is like the digestive system of a universal being, but I'm saying that there is a level up. There is a shelf that the human hands can't reach. There's many ways to approach every moment that we're existing in. It's another way of saying, like, imagine there's one artwork. We're like, all right, what's the fastest way to multiply an artwork? And we get 10 people to come into this art gallery with a single artwork and they just look at the artwork. There is one external artwork, but there is, in some sense, 10 versions of that artwork, 10 ways that a conscious mind saw a picture, took that picture, brought it into its own universe like a satellite from another universe, and in some sense began to understand. There's a level to life where it's as ruthless as geometric shapes like colliding and breaking, and there's a level to life where it's the reverence of the conscious will. It's how far our eyes can rise before they could ever fall. You see, for me, the thing that was the backup system vibe I got from giving these talks was that the after Friedrich Nietzsche said God is dead, which that like he meant it in a specific context, but at the same time, like the way he saw God is meaningless in the sense that God cannot be shaped. It's literally like an unknown variable in the mind of man, right? So, anyways, where I'm going with this is the unknown was the next victim. And so when the unknown is broken, man has been blockaded. That means imagine, that there is like it's kind of messed up to talk about this in the current world, but I mean, because it's happening, we have to say something, right? Human beings right now are like these. Imagine there's like these two layers. There's a dimension of mind, there's a dimension of body. The dimension of body, for some strange reason, due to the lifestyle we've pushed ourselves in, that means if we were still in the jungles, it could have been another level of an advanced creature, Like if we never left the jungles, it could have been a civilization of healthy people, right? But there was something that we sacrificed behavioral, natural behaviorology and natural time of existing, something we're living for. You know what it is? Civilization 1.0 was the ingenious strategy of raising simultaneously in a world where there is an existence a sort of non-existence. You know what that means? That means imagine Like, there's these people go into a house, they find themselves suddenly at the center of a house. How would I say this? Okay, imagine you were raised in how would I say it? Imagine there's someone, right, in a big building, like a sky.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm so sorry, and I'm not trying to be a creep, but could I possibly buy a cigarette from you?
Just give me 1 second.
I apologize.
Okay, guys, to continue. Okay. To continue. Sorry, guys, I'm outside of a Starbucks. I'm using the Wi-Fi of the Starbucks. My window's open. I'm smoking a cigarette. You know what it is, guys? People all have something they want. It's what's in their attention. Now, when I wonder about, okay, I think I remember what I was saying. I was saying that there's these two dimensions. So the human being is born, there's two levels to it, a dimension of mind, a dimension of body. The dimension of body has reached a point where, due to the type of culture that has been created, technology is going to do most of the work. So what's going to happen is that the human being is going to become perhaps less and less of a physical entity, because more it's finding itself to it's like if the revolution in psychological freedoms exceeds the revolution in biological freedom, it's as if we're going to be pretty much like biological healthy statues till the end of time, and our minds are going to be living in a sort of technological server. You see, because what else can happen? Either we maintain the natural rhythms of life and we never forget the past, or we realize that the life changes, so at least we can try to preserve the past and march towards the future. There comes a moment in your life where everything that you consider to have value is based on where you're looking to next. A person can have so many different types of value systems, but what they look at next is kind of like where their consciousness goes. And so imagine there was an advanced, imagine there was this massive like planet, imagine a parallel universe of Earth, all human beings had joined. Imagine there was an empire of humanity. And within the walls of this kingdom of humanity, there was an incredible advanced care and concern of the kingdom for those in it. Imagine that human beings had realized that rather than finding allegiance in chunks, they can in some sense find allegiance in their biological design. Like, it's as if like, what's the common denominator? We all have red blood. All right, we all got something in common. The brotherhood of a species. Do you know what I'm saying? Like there comes a moment where we choose what to honor, and where our attention goes, that's where it becomes. It's as if imagine your consciousness is like a laser. Whatever it goes on, it starts having an influence over. So whatever you look at, either your inner reality instantly starts to change, or your outer reality. But because the outer reality is slower, because the outer reality changes way more slowly, there's so many ways to look at the moment that at some point the person goes like, okay, what way do I look at it? And then you realize maybe the point of it is not just sight. It's the combination of the greatest efforts of all the senses of mankind. Imagine in the empire of humanity, there was an initiative where in some sense we were like, we're scouting pilots to go, towards for interstellar travel. Like imagine that kind of civilization. Imagine a civilization so advanced that the lowest part of the system of human life, you see, the human life is literally like it's kind of bizarre to talk about it like this, but it's like a system. Okay, it's like this program, human civilization. This program provides an opportunity for for human consciousness, all human consciousness, to feel private. That means when an alien lands on Earth, the human being doesn't go, "Yo, I'm an alien too." The human being doesn't do that. The human being has this private room, which is the categorization, the idea imposition on self, on the totality of self. So when it comes to the inner realms of the human being, the inner life you're living, there is turbulences. There's even storms of the mind. Nights where the person can feel like the lightning will come soon, right? But there's also moments of a sunny, clear sky. It's like there's different kinds of students. One student wants to learn from someone. One student wants to learn directly from experience. Another student wants to go and discover. Do you see? That means it's all about if life was a giant problem solving game. So based on what level or what state of mind you hold, kind of like what sort of medieval knight armor do you wear? But ideologically speaking, there comes a moment where what the individual sees, like right now I'm a human being, in this moment I have a certain view on like my moment. Now, what I'm trying to say is, let's say I become convinced that I'm looking at life the right way, the most incredible way. Then I'm limiting myself to see it in any other ways. Do you see what the issue with worshiping ideology is? Right? For me, it's not. Let me tell you this. It's kind of like there is a there is a there's a simulated world simultaneously happening alongside a real world. But we don't know if what we consider to be the real world is a simulated world. Right? For a religious person, reality is not a simulation, or is as much of a simulation as the idea of the will of God is. Right? That means, you see, like again, the humanity is this system. This system has so many different variables. What can we see that we have not seen yet? That's what it's about. That's this episode. So everything you have seen in your life, in those exact moments where you were seeing them in a certain way, there could have been different ways to look at the moment. And the thing is, we might not be physically infinite beings, but the idea of the human being in the domain of the inner realm, linguistic realm, there's so many ways to look at life that at some point or any moment, in the sense of just thinking how many different human beings are gonna, like, come, like, live where I used to live once. Do you know what I'm saying? It's kind of like being a biological organism is like having a membership, a sort of involuntary membership in a sort of hopefully endless human program. Like, our creature is known that before it loses, it gains. So, even if, like, how would I say it? Good and evil will join forces and become this thing that it was as if it was never good and evil, it was just human beings making decisions. And the efficiency of human decisions equals advanced civilization. The inefficiency of humans' decisions can equal into non-existence. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, just like how, for example, parents are, how would I say it? Like, the human species is like a massive collective being with 8 billion parts that hasn't realized yet. It's as if, like, if we acted as if the most important value system in human life was the healthy conscious journey of consciousness, and the attendance to that would be the quickest route to an advanced civilization in this earth. So there are infinite ways to look at the moment, which is another way of saying, it's not a way of saying like your opinion doesn't matter, but it's just that what you consider to be your knowledge is a range of perception, and that's when you get real, right? What I'm realizing is that language, the notion of a personality construct, living a different life, or having dreams of living a life. Do you know what I'm saying? It's kind of like the spirit in the machine is not hiding anymore. Do you know when a human being says, I have dreams, for the future. What does that mean? That means some part of this biological organism has lived ahead of itself to the degree that it has considered a destination. The advancement of the human species and the void is of utmost importance. There is nothing more important than how 8 billion conscious human beings function efficiently. The efficiency of human civilization is the destiny of human civilization. Do we want to live in an inefficient civilization? Do you know, like right now, we're living in a time where even if somebody does something epic, in the past, in the future, they're going to be like, yo, man, these guys lived in a box. They lived in a box of a sort of linguistic acceptance of reality, as if we accept the story. It's like the value of something is more important than what it is. And when that happens, the value doesn't realize it is destroying itself. So what I'm saying is that every human being, however old you are, how many laps you've ran around the sun, you have come to the conclusion that you have seen some sort of existential activity, just as a way to classify it. So what your memory consists of is a combination of real existential memory and then a sort of internal memory where it's as if you can not just remember what you ate yesterday, but what you were thinking while you ate that. Do you see? It's as if the thoughts come and go as well. And because our mind is changing like our body, we can't really say we have a mind. It's kind of like, imagine someone like cooking a meal on an oven, right? Not in an oven, but like, let's say somebody making pasta, right? It will be one of those things where it's as if like, yo, the pasta's still in the pot on the oven. Like, does that mean like we have cooked pasta, or does it mean that when it's completely like out of the pot and in the dish, then you've cooked pasta? You know? You know, it took me a while to realize it all comes down to life force. It's kind of like we energize ourselves and then act, but in the way we energize ourselves, it's as if like we we restore our energy. It's like in the way we do that, we are not conscious of. So this might be part one. You know, I was considering at first to have infinite parts to this episode, considering there's infinite, you know, angles of to every moment. Can you imagine in the title I write part one out of infinity? I think that's a cool thing. This is okay, this is part one out of infinite parts. I think for the modern man, forces that already know the way up to the mountain, like certain principles, would be one, the patience to understand. Because before understanding, if we act, we were fools that never knew, they were fools. You see, there's something about assurance in strategy, then release energy towards the solution, right? It's as if before, like, think of it this way. Imagine before you tackle the problem, like actually physically tackle the problem, right? You ask yourself, what are the different ways, to solve this issue, right? To solve a situation. So you look at the geometry of the problem, and then you look at the geometry of where the problem is. You see, every problem has a design blueprint. Everything that's happening that's an issue, there's a blueprint to it. There's a way where that moment had enough of a value for conscious beings to look at, to see, like, all right, there's a problem here. You know, imagine, like, a car blocking the road or something, right? That conscious attention begins to live a life. So, anyways, in the infinitude of views, one realizes their own existence provides them with an original view. Like, a person can be honest and dishonest in a dualistic reality. What kind of people are we in non-dualistic states? Like, can existence, just existing, be good or bad? Or is it when existence moves, as if you've pressed play on the film of consciousness, and there, the film of reality is in our eyes? So there's infinite ways to look at life, guys. Just keep that in mind. And anytime you feel you've 100% know what's going on, just be like, yo, but there's infinite ways to look at life, right? Right. What I mean by that is, whoever you are in any situation, this is the way we debunk the idea of hopelessness. As long as you're conscious and there is will to move, one can move too. And Mr. Within is just saying, hey, a human species, you know, dancing in the space-time continuum. For me, like, if somebody was like Mr. Within, imagine everybody on the planet was listening to you, but you could only say one sentence. What would that be? And I would say, wouldn't it be incredible if we all lived in the most advanced civilization consciously possible? That would be that sentence. Some eyes just open, some eyes open worlds. Every person right now who's existing and hearing this, you have a hidden world. How it has a value for the collective is up to you. What you care for, you become. What you care for lives on. Like, why else are we alive? An advanced civilization is the future's birthright. Thank you for listening.